Good evening. This is a Fox News alert. I'm Jackie Ibanez in New York. The U.S. sends a message to North Korea. A pair of U.S. Air Force B-1 bombers on a special mission tonight, taking them on a flight from Guam to the Korean Peninsula. The two B-1 special mission took them close to the Korean DMZ, where they dropped dummy bombs on a target in a show of force. And in a show of solidarity, they're being escorted by South Korean fighter jets. Flights like these are known in the Air Force as jungle lightning flights. The flight comes just days after North Korea raised the stakes, successfully launching an intercontinental ballistic missile, flying 1,700 miles into space, which could bring Alaska into its crosshairs. Now, the launch is a violation of existing UN sanctions against North Korea, and it follows a string of launches of smaller missiles in May and June, and at least 2 nuclear weapon tests last year. The U.S. and South Korea answered the North Korean launch with a joint fire exercise in a show of solidarity. Joining us now on the phone is Fox Pentagon producer Lucas Tomlinson. Lucas, what more can you tell us about this special mission tonight?
Well, Jackie, these flights are not exactly routine, but they do happen. As you mentioned, they have a name, Jungle Lightning. They fly from Guam 2,000 miles up to the Korean Peninsula, and that's each way. The B-1 is the largest bomber, conventional bomber in the U.S. Air Force arsenal, carries more payload than anything. It's a supersonic bomber. It means it can fly over Mach 1. It's against ISIS, has had devastating impact. Just a handful of B-1s flying about 2% of the missions in Iraq and Syria, dropped over 40% of the bombs. So it's a heck of a show of force for North Korea when Secretary Mattis says there's military options in place. Following the short-range surface-to-surface missile drill after North Korea fired its intercontinental ballistic missile, this is now the second show of force by the U.S. military, demonstrating what the U.S. Air Force can do, and that's flying these long-range missions. And these B-1s can stay up in the air upwards of 10 hours at a time and can carry a payload that it would take 40 attack jets to carry the same amount of bombs as a single B-1 bomber.
And the other interesting part here is that South Korea, they are escorting this B-1 bomber, which is interesting to see that they are now back behind us on this. And, it's really a whole world. It's a worldwide issue that everyone should be concerned about, but we were being escorted by them. How important is that tonight?
Well, it's very important. Secretary Mattis, the Pentagon, talks frequently about allies in the region. It's very noteworthy that Secretary Mattis, days after taking the reins as the head of the Pentagon, head of the military, traveled to the region. He traveled to Asia. He flew to Seoul. He also flew to Tokyo. It's noteworthy that before this mission yesterday, a pair of B-1 bombers flew with Japanese counterparts. So here we are, back-to-back days, these B-1s flying out of Guam, thousands of miles away, and flying with not only South Korean partners, but also Japanese partners. There's about 80,000 U.S. troops between South Korea and Japan on the ground, and you also have a lot of interoperability as demonstrated by these flights with the South Koreans and Japanese. So the Pentagon will tell you it's not just the U.S. military out there, but there's a lot of alliances in the region.
And Kim Jong-un is definitely a dictator that doesn't seem to step down, but he also has to realize he's working with President Donald Trump, and he has proven to be a president that when he says he's going to do something, he is. And this is just, like you said, another show of force for the U.S. here, that we're not going to take it. We're not going to take these missiles being shot to prove what they could do, potentially hitting Alaska, this last one that happened on Tuesday. So this is a big deal for us and the world.
That's correct. That's correct. And actually, the U.S. Missile Defense Agency just announced this evening that they're going to be doing some missile tests of their own in Alaska. In Kodiak, Alaska, in the next few days, you're going to see 2 test firings from the THAAD anti-ballistic missile system. It's a defensive missile system. There's a system on the ground in South Korea right now at a golf course that has 2 launchers and is designed to shoot down short and medium-range missiles. Now, remember, if you're in South Korea, you're not waiting for an intercontinental ballistic missile to hit you. There are tens of thousands of artillery pieces just over the DMZ from Seoul, so about 35 miles from the capital where 10 million citizens reside, and that includes about 300,000 U.S. citizens. So the big worry, though, Jackie, is that any kind of strike on North Korea, whether it's a pair of B-1 bombers flying a bombing mission or any kind of strike from U.S. Navy warships,